This is about you, the baby boomer, what you care about, what you want, what you need to know. This is about your present and your future. This is about your next or new phase of life. This is about reinventing, rewiring, repurposing, redirecting. This is about redefining your retirement. Today's program is about entrepreneurship. Our expert guests are Carl Haddon, Assistant Director, Florida Small Business Development Center at University of South Florida. Joining Carl is Dennis Zink, Chair of Minnesota Chapter of SCORE. Well, gentlemen, welcome and thank you for joining me today on what I'm sure is going to be a very enlightening program. To start with, I'd like to ask Carl, tell us a little bit about your life and work on the Suncoast.
Okay, after I spent 6 years in the Marine Corps doing electronics maintenance, I came back to Florida and helped run a business with 3 retail wireless phone stores. And after I did that for about 10 years, I transitioned and went into the insurance industry, became a licensed insurance professional, and spent a couple years doing that while I was finishing my bachelor's degree in marketing management. And from there, I found my way into workforce development through the Career Source system. And then from there, found my way to the Florida SBDC at USF. And I think that the path that I took professionally kind of prepared me and gave me that diverse background and experience to where, you know, I get what businesses need, you know, because I've worked in different parts of businesses. I've owned a business. I've been in their seat before, but really enjoying my time at the SBDC and what we're able to do to help small businesses grow.
Well, that's wonderful, Carl. You've had a number of transitions, and that's going to be, and has been, very helpful to you in your role in helping individuals start, manage, and perhaps even sell small businesses. And Dennis, tell us about your life and work on the Suncoast.
Okay. I'm going to go back one step just so everything is a little more clear. I moved from New York City to Denver in the summer of my 27th year, kind of like the John Denver song, Rocky Mountain High. And there I learned how to do new products with a company that started C-SPAN, and with Tip O'Neill. We had cable magazine products. And of course, we didn't own C-SPAN. But I was a new products guy, and we grew from about 30 employees to maybe 600 in about 3 years. So we had rocket, type of growth. And then I was recruited to move to Tampa to start the Tampa Bay Business Journal 35 years ago. So I was still publishing today. So I was the founding publisher and part owner. And then I abandoned that and started a publishing network of magazines and published over 30 publications all over the state of Florida, and lived in the Orlando area, and started a magazine called Orbis, Orlando's business magazine. So I did that, and then basically I decided to retire and move to Sarasota, as many do. And after golf and tennis and being a little bored, I said I've got to do something. So I got involved with SCORE. Very quickly, I mentored some clients, and they asked me if I was interested in leadership, and I said no, but then I changed my mind and became the chapter chair. So pretty much that's what I've done. I'm the chairman of the board also of Realize Bradenton, and I also write for the Herald Tribune, a weekly business column called the Business Scorecard, and get involved with entrepreneurs. I'm a serial entrepreneur.
That's
so I do
amazing.
Consulting. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So I think our viewers can see the wealth of information we have at the table today and how lucky they are to be able to be out there to listen to this program. So with that, I'll kind of give just a general background of how the two of you are related to one another through your work, and that is through the Small Business Administration. So the SBDC, Small Business Development Center Florida at USF, and SCORE are both affiliates of the Small Business Administration, and as such, you offer various programs to help those that are looking to start, manage, and perhaps transfer their businesses. So with that, let me give you a couple of scenarios that might represent a number of our viewers. One scenario would be Sally, who's in her 50s, because again, our baby boomers range in age from those in their 50s to those in their 60s. So we span 20 years, and those two cohorts pretty much represent that particular group that this program is aiming towards to serve. So Sally is in her 50s, and she's always wanted to own a business. I mean, it's been a dream that she's had, and she has an idea that she's had since maybe she was a child, but she's never been able to bring it to fruition. So now Sally comes to Carl and says, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to have my own business. Where does she start, Carl?
The first step would be to find, an SBDC consultant or a SCORE mentor, and work with them. It's very important at that pre-venture stage that they have that opportunity to do, a self-assessment, make sure that they're ready, both as a family and as an individual, to take that step into business ownership, because it's a lot more challenging than a lot of people anticipate. So we really just want to make sure that they're ready. And then from that point, of course, we just need to identify what type of business that person is wanting to get into, and if they have the core competencies to really excel in that. For example, if you have a retired CPA who wants to open a sports bar, he doesn't have any experience in that industry. So we need to identify if what the fit is for what they're trying to do. And if there are gaps, encourage them to bring other people in to the process that may be able to have the expertise that they need to be successful. From there, a lot of the questions revolve around, funding, marketing, those types of questions. What I've found is that a lot of the Encore entrepreneurs are very experienced professionals, but they seem to be very vertical in their experience. They're either, they've spent 30 years in finance or 30 years in human resources, but when you step into that small business ownership role, you really need to have a little bit of knowledge in a lot of areas. So, what the SCORE organization and what the Florida SBDC at USF does is we help them through their consulting and through the mentorship to help them fill those gaps and help them get through those areas that they're just not comfortable with.
That's a very interesting observation about the vertical experience. I think so many of us spend so much of our time becoming an expert in a particular area. And then when we want to transition into small business ownership, and Carl, tell us a little bit about that transition and some of the resources that one might have at his or her disposal, and how SCORE can help.
Okay. Basically, I think the main thing is we want to know why the person wants to do what they want to do. What's their why? And there's a great TED Talk on that, about knowing your why with Simon Sinek. And basically what we would do, we would recommend they get a mentor either right away or start with our Simple Steps for Starting Your Business series, which is given 3 times a year. And it's a terrific series. It's probably classes about 3 hours a class. And what it does is if you don't know anything about being in business before, then you start with number 1, because it says, what's business all about? Why are you even here? And the second one is you have a business idea and you have a concept and you want to see, how to bring that to fruition. So you'd start with the second one, which is about your business. Then the third one has to do with marketing, financing, and we even have a Shark Tank. But we suggest that you get a mentor at least by between number 2 and 3, or if you just start with 3, you should have a mentor by then. And really, the series is terrific, but we have a lot of other things. We encourage people to read my ebook of all my 121 business columns in the Herald Tribune, which is all about starting a business, and my podcast series, Been There, Done That, with Dennis Zink, that has a lot of the same information as are in the articles, and other information about starting a business, what you need to know, and even how to know what you don't know is one of our podcasts, which is one of my favorites. So we recommend, the main thing is to have a plan, be focused, and what we do is we encourage a business model canvas, which is a one-page business plan instead of a 40-page business plan, because basically we found that most people starting a business won't do the research. They're not going to do a 40-page business plan. It takes too long, too much information, they just don't want to do it. So, but they'll do a one-page plan, and one page is better than no pages. And on one page they can have basically 9 different categories that interrelate as to why this business may or may not make sense. And then they can check and go into the street and see if their concept makes sense before they spend a lot of money going down a road that they wish they hadn't.
Well, that's amazing, the number of resources that an individual has available through the Small Business Administration, through the Small Business Development Center, as well as through SCORE. Very varied. And I understand that there's a lot available online as well. And that's perhaps how they can best reach you, is through your various websites, initially to make appointments, to come in, to talk to you, and to peruse. So there's another category of boomer out there that not in his 50s, but in his 60s. Okay, and so Sam has in fact owned a business, all right? He's owned a couple of businesses. And so now he's looking towards, I think I may want to transition out of this business and start another one perhaps, because he is a serial entrepreneur. So he wants to transition out of this business, and I would imagine there are a few things he needs to do to kind of lay the groundwork before he actually moves ahead and moves on. Carl, do you have any thoughts for Sam?
Absolutely. The first steps for Sam would really be to find out, get an estimate of what his business is really worth. And those services are available through the Florida SBDC. We can do a complete financial analysis, look at some of their 3 years of their financial history and year-to-dates, and look at their industry and some rules of thumb, and give them, through 2 to 3 different methodologies, what their business should be worth in the marketplace. And if that number that they come up with is really not what that business owner is looking for, we can let them know what steps they need to take between now and the time that they want to sell that business in order to get the number where they want it to be. And we have different products that will allow us to do that. One of our products is a growth acceleration report. And with that, we take that client and we'll meet with the owner and his management team, and we'll interview them for 3 to 4 hours, go with all phases of their business, from operations to marketing to finance. And then we'll also pull some industry data and some financial benchmarks, and we'll go back to our office and we may spend 50, 60, 70 hours drafting a report on what steps that business can take in order to grow their profits. It includes a full financial assessment, benchmarking their financial ratios against their industry, as well as looking at their operations and trends that are happening in the marketplace, so that they have a written plan that they can follow in order to help that business to grow to the point where it is worth what they want it to be worth when they sell it. That's really important for someone to really think in terms of what the timetable is and what the steps he or she may need to take. Dennis, do you want to pick up on that and maybe carry forward with some additional ideas?
I do.
Yeah.
Last week we met with the county and did a business walk, visiting 50 businesses on 4 different, what's called the SW, Southwest TIF corridors. And what we noticed when we regrouped with the SCORE mentors was that a lot of businesses were either inherited, they kind of walked into it, or they wanted to transition it to their children. One gentleman was losing business, and I said, gee, you sure you want to give this to your child? He said, well, I'm going to turn it around, and then hopefully you'll get involved and be interested in it. So what we realize is that what we need to do is we talk about the business plan and the business model canvas, and we talk about strategic plans for your business, But what we don't talk about is an exit strategy. So what we came up with is the ESC. It's like the escape key on your keyboard to get out of things. The exit strategy canvas, which is actually being created as we speak. Our big meeting is Monday to create this thing. And I put it in my column this Monday in the Herald Tribune and got a ton of responses on people who wanted me to send them the finished form. So that should be interesting. But basically, people need to consider how they're going to dispose of their business. Are they going to sell it? Are they going to sell it to their employees? Are they going to sell it to a third party? Are they going to close it because it isn't doing well? Are they going to transition it to their children or their niece or nephews or whatever? So they really need to know what their options are, and what we're doing is putting this canvas together also on a one page with some directions on what they need to consider. They need to understand their numbers. Much as Carl said, they need to know what their last 3 years of business have looked like, and different variables, and what age they're at, when they want to get out of their business. Technically, you should know when you're going to exit your business when you start your business. It should be part of your plan. I mean, whether it's at 65 or 75, or if you get ill or whatever.
Or a certain threshold of monetary value.
Exactly.
Right?
That's right. So that's something that we realize that no one's doing that. So we're doing it, and we hope to bring that national. There's a lot of things that we've done that have gone national. Our chapter, by the way, is the second best chapter in the United States out of 303 score chapters. That's because we're doing a lot of unique, interesting things. And we hope this will be one of them that national takes the ball and runs with.
Well, your chapter has always been strong. Did you want to add?
I was going to say, and Dennis, kind of hit the nail on the head, is businesses age, sometimes they'll get off track, or they'll fail to adapt to changes in the market. And one of the examples I had recently is we did a growth acceleration report for an industrial wholesale company who had been in business for well over 100 years. They had millions of dollars in revenue, but they were losing money. They were hemorrhaging cash, and they didn't know why. And obviously they were incredibly successful from 1909 all the way up. And us being able to come in and do that assessment and look at their finances and their operations, we were able to identify 3 key areas that they needed to work on in order to turn the company around and be more successful. And within a year, they had turned that loss into a gain on less sales. This particular company, they had challenges in inventory. You probably see that all the time. They had excess inventory, old inventory. Their wages as a percentage of sales were off, and their gross profit margin just wasn't where it needed to be. And by making just small improvements in those 3 key areas, they were able to make just a dramatic change in just a 1-year period. But sometimes it's just those companies, they lose focus over time.
And you have to help them turn their ships around and move them in another direction sometimes, right? Or refine it.
Often it's not around, it's just a slight tweak, because they don't get that far off course, but just a slight tweak will get it back on course.
It's just a couple percentage points here or there, and over the course of a year, it makes dramatic differences.
It adds up, which makes me think about a team approach, okay? So working with the SBDC and perhaps SCORE, working with both of you at the same time, one may have to consult another team of experts or additional people on his or her team, okay? And that might be, a lawyer, an accountant, is how do you help somebody determine how to build a team beyond what it is that you offer, if they need it?
Well, internally we have, a bench of about 25 different consultants throughout our 10-county region. And all of our consultants tend to have a specialty in one area or another, whether it's government contracting or international trade or intellectual property or marketing or finance. So if there's a need that client has, we can reach out within our network to those other consultants and bring them into that conversation. But you mentioned something in your question, and it's something that I tell all of my pre-ventures and startups. I always tell them, I said, running a small business is a team sport. I was like, you can't go into this as an individual and do all of this by yourself. You need to build that team. You need to have, and all of those people on that team preferably should have a local phone number, and you should be on a first name basis with them. And that includes your banker, it includes your CPA. It includes your attorney, it includes your insurance agent, and of course your SBDC consultant or SCORE mentor. You need to have that 5-person dream team because you're going to be running into issues within that business that you're not going to know how to handle. But one of those 5 individuals should be able to come alongside you and help you through that issue.
That's a very good point. Dennis, do you want to add to that or
Sure.
take a different perspective?
No,
yeah.
Somewhat. Somewhat, whatever. Basically what we do is we have co-mentoring. So we'll start out with a client, and then maybe as we learn about them, we'll realize, I can help them a little bit, but we really need somebody who's an expert in one of the areas that Carl mentioned. So we have about 70 local mentors, and our mentoring is free. And basically, we'll call in a co-mentor and say, can you help on this? So it could be an attorney, it could be a CPA, it could be a banker, it could be whatever. And but we don't do their books for them as a CPA. We just make recommendations, and we don't give legal advice, but we can help them develop their team. And I like the way Carl referred to the dream team. That's exactly what they want to have, is a dream team made up of the components of what Carl mentioned in terms of banking, finance, lawyer, et cetera.
Some of our boomers may be interested in sharing their knowledge and experience. And my experience with SCORE is that you do have a very broad base of volunteer mentors. If I were interested, or if someone out there is interested in becoming a SCORE mentor, what are you looking for and what's involved in the process?
That's a great question. What we did is we've grown our chapter by 75% in terms of mentors, adding mentors in the last 2 years. And the reason we've done that is we've gotten more and more requests to do mentoring. And we have some snowbirds in our chapter, and we want to make sure we can accommodate them. So we created a strategy called M&Ms, much the same, plain and peanut, if you will. We have a bunch of nuts. So, but basically what we decided was we need more mentors so we can provide more services. So we said, let's get more mentors. So we have different methods of doing that. We use LinkedIn and actively try to solicit people that we think have the qualifications that we're looking for. We're really interested in internet-based education and experiences, healthcare, and banking were 3 areas that we really wanted to beef up, and we have. But we're interested, we get a lot of referrals from National SCORE every couple days, and so we have a vetting team that meets with these people and decides if it makes sense. We created an 8-minute podcast, so we don't have to keep repeating over and over the same thing of what SCORE is all about. So if someone is interested, we'll just send them the podcast, and for 8 minutes, they'll hear a male and female mentor talk about what it's like to get started with SCORE, how it works, what they get out of it, why they do it. And it's been very successful for us.
Well, that's excellent. So in case there's somebody out there that would like to be a SCORE mentor, they can find out and probably join your team. As we begin to wind down on these wonderful 30 minutes that we've had with each other, I want to give you two gentlemen a couple of minutes each to basically summarize and or add to anything that we haven't touched upon in terms of how you can be of assistance to boomers who are interested in starting, growing, or transferring their business. And I'll start with Carl and then move on to Dennis before we say goodbye today.
Okay, thank you. Well, the Florida SBDC at USF, we offer confidential, no-cost consulting throughout our 10-county region, including the Sarasota and Manatee market. We have 2 full-time consultants who work this part of the state. But again, we have other consultants throughout our region, throughout the state, that we can be called on to assist small businesses in this market. I definitely encourage small business pre-ventures or startups, or really any stage of business, to reach out to either the Florida SBC or SCORE and really avail themselves of those services, because what I've tend to find out is a lot of people that think they know what they're doing, so they'll kind of jump into it and start their business, and then they'll come back and they'll meet with one of our consultants, and we'll kind of assess kind of where they are and where they need to go, and we'll find that they've already signed a lease, they've already made some decisions that they can't undo. So if they take one thing away from this conversation that we've had today is, before you jump, step back for a moment and get some assistance through SCORE or through the SBDC and really put together a strong business plan, whether it's a canvas plan or just a small business plan. Again, it needs to be usable. Nobody's going to take a 40-page business plan and actually look at it every day and use it to manage their business. It needs to be a usable business plan, and the other thing is a budget. They need to set a budget because it's not that one thing that's going to break them. It's death by 1,000 cuts. So they need to make sure they have a strong budget, a detailed budget going in so that they can manage those costs and expenses because those are really the things that really I find small businesses struggle with at the beginning.
It's a great wrap up. Thank you, Dennis. What do you say about this?
Well, I say that Carl hit a lot of good points, and we have 11,000 mentors in the United States, and they're all available through email mentoring also. So if there's almost no topic that we can't handle, someone's been there and done that, which is the name of my podcast series. I like to plug that every now and then. And basically, our chapter is 70 mentors. Not all mentors mentor, though. So we are interested in getting mentors, even if if they want to help the chapter with the internet and with their website and in different ways. They don't have to mentor clients if they don't want to. We do like to see mentors get actively involved and attend our meetings and workshops. I would say, I would say that if you're going to start a business, one of the things that was said, you can start a business and make a small fortune if you start with a large one. So I'd be careful that you're not doing that, and that you really have a passion for what you want to get into, and you do your homework, and that you get involved with something that's going to be meaningful to you, that you're going to really want to stay with. And then when you're ready to get out, make sure you have that exit strategy canvas, the ESC, so you can escape the right way and not have to bail out because you didn't plan.
Well, gentlemen, it's been wonderful having you here today, and I personally thank you so much for taking time away from your busy schedule to share with our viewers your expertise and knowledge and passion for what it is that you do to help us all. So I thank you very, very much from the bottom of my heart. In the words of Helen Keller, life is either a daring adventure or nothing. Join pioneering baby boomers like you who are reinventing retirement and redefining success. Become part of the conversation. Broaden all of our perspectives as we rewire together, build community, and have some fun on our fantastic voyage. Contact me, Vicki Vega, at successafter60.com with your insights. Until we meet again, here's to you, the entrepreneur.